Dr. Sienna Vale pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose as she stared at the holographic display floating above her desk. Numbers, charts, and compatibility matrices danced in the air like digital fireflies. 3 years of research had led to this moment. Her life's work was finally complete. "Mira, run the final diagnostic," Sienna called out to her lab assistant, her voice trembling with barely contained excitement. A petite woman with purple streaks in her dark hair looked up from her tablet. "Running it now." "Sienna, are you sure about this? I mean, using yourself as the test subject seems kind of personal." Sienna smiled, her green eyes sparkling with determination. "Science requires sacrifice, Mira. Besides, if my behavioral compatibility algorithm can't find me a perfect match, how can I expect it to work for anyone else?" The laboratory hummed with the quiet buzz of expensive equipment. Sienna had spent every waking moment for the past 1,000 days building this system. It wasn't just about finding romantic partners. It was about understanding the very nature of human connection, breaking it down into measurable components, and creating a foolproof method for finding true compatibility. "System ready," Mira announced. "Your profile has been analyzed across 417 different parameters: personality traits, biological markers, life goals, communication patterns, even your preferred sleeping position." Sienna laughed nervously. "Don't forget the genetic screening for optimal offspring potential. That's included in the biological compatibility module," Mira confirmed, though her expression suggested she found that particular detail somewhat excessive. The holographic display shifted, and a progress bar appeared. Sienna held her breath as it climbed toward completion. This was it. The moment that would validate everything she believed about love, relationships, and human bonding. Romance wasn't some mysterious force. It was chemistry, psychology, and statistics working together in perfect harmony. "Match found," the computer announced in a pleasant synthetic voice. "Compatibility rating, 94.7%. A profile materialized in the air before Sienna's eyes. Daniel Foster, age 31, astrophysicist. Blue eyes, sandy blonde hair, 6 feet tall, marathon runner. Volunteer at animal shelters. Non-smoker. His genetic profile showed no hereditary diseases and optimal immune system compatibility with her own DNA. "He's perfect," Sienna whispered, reaching out to touch the hologram. "Look at these shared interests. We both love classical music, Thai food, and hiking. Our communication styles are complementary. Our life goals align almost perfectly." Mira peered at the display with less enthusiasm. "His smile looks kind of stiff in these photos." "That's irrelevant. Attraction is based on symmetry and biological markers, not subjective opinions about smiles," Sienna countered, already drafting a message to Daniel through the system's secure interface. The response came faster than expected. Daniel was interested in meeting. They scheduled dinner for Friday evening at Celestial, an upscale restaurant known for its fusion cuisine and romantic atmosphere. Sienna spent the next 2 days preparing, running simulations of conversation topics most likely to deepen their connection. Friday arrived with clear skies and perfect weather. Sienna chose her outfit based on color psychology research indicating that deep emerald green enhanced perceptions of intelligence and trustworthiness. She arrived at the restaurant precisely on time, neither early enough to appear desperate nor late enough to seem disrespectful. The hostess led her to a corner table where Daniel was already seated. He stood as she approached, and Sienna's heart skipped. He looked exactly like his photos. Tall, handsome, professionally dressed in a charcoal gray suit that complemented his eyes perfectly. "Sienna, I presume?" Daniel extended his hand with a warm smile that reached his eyes this time. "Daniel, wonderful to meet you," she replied, accepting his handshake. His grip was firm but not aggressive, exactly as her algorithm had predicted based on his personality profile. They settled into conversation easily. Daniel discussed his work at the observatory with genuine passion. Sienna shared details about her research, carefully avoiding mentioning the algorithm that had brought them together. The evening flowed smoothly, hitting every milestone her predictive models had forecasted. "This has been lovely," Daniel said as dessert arrived. "I feel like we have so much in common. It's rare to find someone who understands the beauty of scientific pursuit. Sienna smiled, feeling vindicated. Her algorithm worked. This was exactly what she had designed it to do. Create perfect compatibility based on measurable factors. Then the waiter appeared with their check, and everything changed. Sorry for the delay, folks. We had a minor crisis in the kitchen. Temperamental equipment, the waiter explained with an apologetic grin. Sienna glanced up and found herself looking into the most unsettling pair of hazel eyes she had ever seen. The waiter was young, probably mid-20s, with tousled brown hair that looked like he had just rolled out of bed. Grease stained his forearms, and his name tag read Jackson. "No problem," Daniel replied smoothly, handing over his credit card. But Jackson wasn't looking at Daniel. He was staring directly at Sienna with an expression somewhere between curiosity and amusement. "Hey, aren't you that scientist lady? The one who's been on the news talking about programming love?" Sienna felt her cheeks flush. "I don't program love. I analyze compatibility factors." Right, Jackson said, processing the payment. "So you're telling me you can reduce human connection to a bunch of numbers and formulas? That's wild." "It's not wild, it's science," Sienna replied defensively, aware that Daniel was watching this exchange with growing confusion. Jackson handed back the credit card with a knowing smirk. "Science, huh? Well, good luck with that, Doc. Hope your calculations work out." As he walked away, Sienna felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. It wasn't logical. It wasn't based on any parameters she had programmed into her system. But when Jackson glanced back over his shoulder one last time before disappearing into the kitchen, her pulse quickened in a way that had nothing to do with cardiovascular health markers or biological compatibility ratings. And that terrified her more than any failed experiment ever could. The following morning, Sienna sat in her laboratory staring at the same holographic display that had brought her so much joy just days before. Daniel had messaged her 3 times already, suggesting another date. Each message was perfectly crafted, thoughtful, and exactly what her algorithm predicted he would say. Yet she found herself unable to respond with the same enthusiasm she had felt before. "You look troubled," Mira observed, setting down 2 cups of coffee on the desk. "How did the perfect date with the perfect match go?" Sienna wrapped her hands around the warm mug, seeking comfort in its heat. "It went exactly as predicted. Daniel is everything the algorithm said he would be. Intelligent, kind, ambitious, genetically compatible. We talked for 3 hours without a single awkward silence." "So why do you look like someone just disproved your doctoral thesis?" Mira asked, settling into the chair beside her. "Because something happened that shouldn't have happened," Sienna admitted quietly. "There was this waiter. Completely random encounter. He probably scored a compatibility rating of 30% at best with my profile. Wrong age bracket, wrong profession, wrong everything. But when he looked at me, I felt something that I didn't feel with Daniel." Mira's eyes widened with understanding. "Oh no, please tell me you're not developing feelings based on irrational attraction." "I'm not developing feelings," Sienna protested, but even as she said it, she knew it sounded unconvincing. "I'm simply experiencing an anomaly that requires investigation. My body had a physiological response that contradicts the algorithm's predictions. That means there's a variable I haven't accounted for. Or it means your algorithm can't actually measure chemistry," Mira suggested gently. Before Sienna could respond, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the message and felt her stomach flip. "Hey Doc, it's Jackson from Celestial. Got your number from the reservation list. Hope that's not too creepy. Want to grab coffee and discuss why your love formula is completely wrong. Promise to keep an open mind if you do the same." Sienna stared at the message, her scientific mind warring with something deeper and more primal. This was inappropriate. He had accessed private information. He was challenging her life's work. Every logical part of her brain screamed that she should delete the message and block the number. Instead, she found herself typing a response. "Tomorrow's the day. 10 a.m. Darwin's Coffee House on 5th Street. Come prepared to defend your position." Mira read over her shoulder and laughed. "Oh, Sienna, you're in so much trouble." The next morning arrived with unexpected rain, as if the universe itself was commenting on the illogical nature of what Sienna was doing. She arrived at Darwin's coffee house wearing jeans and a simple sweater, having deliberately chosen not to apply her usual color psychology analysis to her outfit selection. Jackson was already there, occupying a corner booth with a mechanical contraption spread across the table. He looked up as she approached, and that same unsettling feeling washed over her again. "You actually came," he said, genuine surprise in his voice. "I figured you'd analyze the statistical probability of this meeting being worthwhile and decide against it." "I analyze everything," Sienna replied, sliding into the booth across from him. "That's what makes me good at what I do." "Fair enough," Jackson said, pushing aside the mechanical parts to make room. "So here's my theory. You think love is math, I think love is chaos, and I'm willing to bet I can prove you wrong." Sienna raised an eyebrow. "How exactly do you plan to do that?" "You're a waiter." "Actually, I'm a motorcycle mechanic. I wait tables 3 nights a week to pay off my shop loan," Jackson corrected, not seeming offended. "And I plan to prove it by taking you on dates that break every rule in your algorithm playbook. If you feel nothing, you win. If you feel something, I win." "This is absurd," Sienna said, but her heart was racing in a way her fitness tracker would definitely flag as unusual. "Why would I agree to this?" Jackson leaned forward, his hazel eyes intense. "Because you're a scientist, and scientists don't run from data that challenges their theories. They investigate. Besides, what have you got to lose? If I'm wrong, you get to prove your algorithm works. If I'm right, you learn something new about how love actually works." Sienna knew she should walk away. This violated every principle of controlled experimentation. Jackson represented too many variables, too many unknowns, but that was exactly why she couldn't resist. "Fine," she heard herself say. 3 dates, controlled experiment, but I set some ground rules." "No rules," Jackson interrupted with a grin that made her pulse quicken. "That's the whole point. You've spent your life controlling everything, measuring everything, predicting everything. For once, just let things happen naturally." "I don't do naturally," Sienna protested. "Then it's time you learned," Jackson replied, standing up and extending his hand. "Come on, first date starts now." Against every rational impulse, Sienna took his hand. His palm was calloused from years of mechanical work, warm and rough against her own soft skin. He led her out into the rain, and she expected him to hail a cab or suggest they wait for the weather to clear. Instead, he guided her to a vintage motorcycle parked at the curb, its chrome gleaming despite the gray sky. "You're joking," Sienna said, staring at the machine. "I'm not getting on that thing. Do you have any idea how many motorcycle accidents occur annually? The statistical probability of injury increases dramatically in wet conditions." "See, that's your problem right there," Jackson said, handing her a helmet. "You're so busy calculating risk that you forget to actually live. Sometimes the best moments come from doing things that don't make sense on paper." Sienna held the helmet, feeling the weight of the decision before her. Every fiber of her being screamed that this was illogical, dangerous, completely contrary to her carefully structured life. Daniel would never suggest something so reckless. Daniel was safe, predictable, compatible. Daniel was boring. The thought shocked her, but she couldn't deny its truth. In that moment, standing in the rain with a virtual stranger offering her an adventure her algorithm would never approve, Sienna made a choice that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. She put on the helmet. Jackson's face lit up with genuine delight. "Now we're talking, Doc." He climbed onto the motorcycle and waited as Sienna awkwardly settled behind him, unsure where to put her hands. Jackson reached back and pulled her arms around his waist. "Hold tight," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "This is where your algorithm stops working." The engine roared to life beneath them, vibrating through her entire body. As they pulled away from the curb and accelerated into the rain-soaked streets, Sienna felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Freedom. Wild, uncontrolled, completely illogical freedom. She tightened her grip around Jackson's waist and allowed herself to smile behind the helmet's visor. Maybe, just maybe, there were some things that couldn't be programmed after all. The motorcycle carried them through winding streets until the city gave way to open countryside. Rain had softened to a light mist, and Sienna found herself relaxing against Jackson's back, no longer calculating the odds of every turn and acceleration. For the first time in years, her mind quieted. They stopped at an old salvage yard surrounded by rusted cars and forgotten machinery. Jackson killed the engine and helped Sienna off the bike, steadying her as she found her footing on solid ground. "A junkyard," Sienna said, removing her helmet and looking around. "This is your idea of a romantic date?" "Who said anything about romance?" Jackson replied with that infuriating grin. "I said I'd prove your algorithm wrong. Romance is just another box you're trying to fit feelings into." He led her through rows of abandoned vehicles until they reached a clearing where an old pickup truck sat under a makeshift shelter. Tools were scattered around it, and Sienna could see that someone had been carefully restoring the vehicle piece by piece. "This was my grandfather's truck," Jackson explained, running his hand along the faded blue paint. "He taught me everything about engines, about fixing things that seem broken beyond repair. He used to say that the most beautiful things in life can't be measured or predicted. They just are." Sienna watched as Jackson opened the hood, revealing an engine that gleamed despite its age. "You've been rebuilding it." "For 5 years now," he confirmed. "Every spare moment I get. It's not efficient. It's not logical. Parts are expensive and hard to find. But every time I get another piece working, I feel something your algorithm could never calculate." He grabbed a wrench and gestured for her to come closer. "Here, help me with this." "I don't know anything about engines," Sienna protested. "That's the point," Jackson said patiently. "Not everything worth doing requires expertise or planning. Sometimes you just need to be willing to try." For the next 2 hours, Sienna found herself immersed in the mechanical innards of the old truck. Jackson guided her hands, showed her how different parts connected, explained the elegant logic of combustion and motion. His enthusiasm was infectious, and she discovered an unexpected joy in the simple act of creation, of making something work with her own hands rather than through computer simulations. "You're a natural," Jackson said as she successfully tightened a particularly stubborn bolt. His hand covered hers for a moment, and Sienna felt electricity that had nothing to do with the truck's wiring. "This is different from what I expected," she admitted, sitting back on her heels and looking at him. "You're different from what I expected." "Good different or bad different?" Jackson asked, moving closer. "Undefined different," Sienna replied, her scientist brain struggling to categorize the feelings swirling inside her. "My algorithm didn't account for this." "For what?" "For someone who makes me forget about algorithms," she said softly. Jackson's expression shifted, becoming serious in a way she hadn't seen before. "Sienna, can I ask you something? When you're with that Daniel guy, the one your computer picked out, do you feel this?" He gestured between them, at the charged air that seemed to crackle with possibility. Sienna wanted to lie, wanted to defend her life's work, wanted to insist that compatibility ratings and genetic screening were more important than whatever this inexplicable connection was. But scientists dealt in truth, even uncomfortable truth. "No," she whispered. "I don't." Before Jackson could respond, Sienna's phone buzzed insistently. She pulled it out to find multiple messages from Daniel, each one more concerned than the last. The final message made her stomach sink. "Sienna, I've been researching your algorithm. I think we should meet. There's something important we need to discuss about our compatibility rating." "Everything okay?" Jackson asked, noticing her expression. "I need to go," Sienna said, standing abruptly. "Daniel wants to meet. He's discovered something about the algorithm." The ride back to the city felt faster and colder than the journey out. Sienna's mind raced through possibilities, each one more troubling than the last. What had Daniel found? Had she made an error in her calculations? Was their perfect compatibility rating flawed? Jackson dropped her at her apartment building as dusk painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. "Will I see you again?" he asked as she handed back the helmet. "I don't know," Sienna replied honestly. "I need to figure some things out." "That's your problem, Doc," Jackson said, but his voice was gentle. "You're always trying to figure things out instead of just feeling them, but I'll wait. Some equations are worth solving slowly." He drove away before she could respond, leaving Sienna standing on the sidewalk with her heart pulling in two different directions. The meeting with Daniel took place at her laboratory the next morning. He arrived with a tablet full of data and an expression that made Sienna's professional pride crumble. "I ran my own analysis of your algorithm," Daniel began without preamble. "It's brilliant work, Sienna, truly groundbreaking. But there's a fundamental flaw." "What kind of flaw?" Sienna asked, dreading the answer. Daniel pulled up a series of graphs on the holographic display. "Your algorithm measures compatibility based on similarity and complementary traits, but it doesn't account for growth potential. It finds people who are perfect for each other right now, in this moment, based on who they currently are. But people change. They evolve. Real love isn't about finding someone who matches your current parameters. It's about finding someone who makes you want to become a better version of yourself." Sienna stared at the data, seeing the truth in his analysis. Her algorithm was perfect for creating comfortable partnerships, but it couldn't predict passion, couldn't measure the transformative power of genuine connection. "You're right," she said quietly. "I designed it to eliminate risk, to create predictable outcomes. But love isn't supposed to be predictable." Daniel smiled sadly. "I think you already know this. I can see it in the way you've been distant since our date. You met someone, didn't you? Someone who doesn't fit your criteria but makes you feel something your algorithm can't explain." Sienna nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "That's okay," Daniel continued. "I appreciate what your algorithm was trying to do, and I think with some modifications, it could still help a lot of people. But maybe not us. We're compatible, Sienna, but we're not combustible. And sometimes combustible is exactly what you need." After Daniel left, Sienna sat alone in her laboratory, surrounded by 3 years of work that suddenly felt incomplete. She had been so focused on eliminating variables, on creating certainty, that she had programmed out the very thing that made love worth having: the uncertainty, the risk, the possibility of being transformed by another person. Her phone rang. Jackson's name appeared on the screen. "I know you said you needed time," his voice came through, rough and uncertain. "But I'm at the salvage yard, and I just got the truck running for the first time in 5 years. I wanted you to be here for it. I wanted you to hear it come to life." Sienna closed her eyes, listening to the rumble of the engine through the phone, hearing the triumph and joy in Jackson's voice. In that moment, she understood what her algorithm had been missing all along. Love wasn't about finding someone who checked all the boxes. It was about finding someone who made you willing to throw away the boxes entirely. "I'm on my way," she said, already grabbing her jacket. "And Jackson, I'm bringing my research notes. I think it's time I started studying a new kind of compatibility, the kind that can't be programmed." "What kind is that?" he asked. "The kind that scares me," Sienna admitted. "The kind that makes my heart race and my logic fail. The kind that exists between us." She could hear his smile through the phone. "That's the best kind, Doc. That's the kind worth everything." As Sienna rushed out of her laboratory toward an uncertain future with a man who defied every parameter she had ever programmed, she realized something profound. She had spent years trying to create the perfect algorithm for love, trying to eliminate the chaos and unpredictability of human emotion. But perhaps the most beautiful equation was the one that couldn't be solved, only experienced. The one written not in code and calculations, but in shared moments, unexpected connections, and the courage to choose feeling over formula. Her algorithm had failed, and Sienna had never been happier about being wrong.